This is one of our favorite recipes that my wife has been making for almost 10 years now, and the only thing I was allowed to do in this video was to pick and wash the zucchinis. So I do have a couple extra here. You don't need that much for this video, for this recipe, but I've got to wash them, and then my wife explained to me how you have to cut them and quarter them and then remove the actual seeds out of them before you can put them through the food processor. Well, I started out, I was just going to cut them in half and jam them down through their hole, so that's when I lost my ability to be in the video. So here she is, just you gotta make sure you cut all the seeds out. You don't want any little pieces of them in the bread when it's done. And we are doing this the day before. It's easier if you just take care of this part of the mess one day before. And we're doing a little extra too, so we can make some zucchini fritters later on too. But I'm not going to do a video about that. I think I might have in the past. So all the zucchinis cleaned up there, and now it's time to stack it in the food processor there carefully. And just shred it up so it can be used in the recipe. And it's a great way to use the zucchini up. We've got a ton of, I only put 4 plants in this year, and we've had a ton of it the last couple of weeks. I can't believe it. So one thing you got to do is remember to plug it in before you turn it on. We all have these senior moments. And then it just takes a second to process up a batch of it there.
It works.
And she just uses that little grater blade in the food processor there. Has a coarse side and a fine side. She uses the coarser side on it. And picks out any chunks that slip through there. And then just, clean that out and just go back and do the rest of it. So, it really makes the recipe a lot easier by just kind of doing this the day before. And just put it in the fridge with a piece of plastic over it, and the stuff stays good for a day. So you don't have to worry about it. And the next day, we've got all the recipe out, all the ingredients here. You just got everything spread out, and it uses a whole wheat flour and some olive oil and sugar and a couple of other spices. I will put a link to this recipe. It's from the Cuisinart. And the first thing you have to do is you need 2 pans here, 2 of these baking pans, to be oiled up. And we use this spray stuff that you always spray it outside, because that stuff gets in the air and it'll cover the walls in the whole house if you use it inside. We never use that inside. And then she's just going to sprinkle a little bit of the flour in the bottom of them to kind of make it so that the loaves don't stick. And this is one step. She says don't skip whatever you do. Make sure you got that flour oiled and floured there. And then just dump the rest out, and whatever loose in there, dump it in the garbage can. Then she's going to mix up the recipe in 2 sections. One is for a dry bowl, she calls it, and that's pretty much all the dry goods. Some whole wheat flour and some salt. I guess you can use any kind of salt. We tend to use sea salt when we're cooking things like this. And then there's some baking soda that goes in there too. So, it's mostly stuff that you would have around the house, I think. It's really easy to make, and really a great use for zucchinis that start coming in like crazy this time of the year. And then you got some baking powder, which, so far it's just pretty much a basic bread recipe. But when you get to the other parts, it makes it a little bit sweeter and tastier. And then you need a little bit of cinnamon in there. Gives it a real nice flavor. And I tell you what, I can't believe how it's raining outside again today. Looks like we're going to get 3 or 4 inches of rain again today. It just hasn't let up in a while. And then there's some nutmeg in it. It also adds a nice flavor to it. And I will put a link down in the description to the recipe itself from Cuisinart, so you can read it, make sure I haven't left anything out or changed anything. Then just mix that dry bowl up and get that all mixed good. And she likes to clean up the mess before going on to the next step. So that's why we do it. That spice rack's really been a great addition to the kitchen. Now she's starting what's called a wet bowl, which has 3 eggs in it. We use, I think they're the extra large ones. I don't know if size really matters when it comes to the eggs. And then there's some olive oil in it. It calls for a cup of olive oil. And we always buy the extra virgin. We kind of like the flavor of that a little bit better. But you can see there is quite a bit of olive oil in here. And this is for 2 loaves, so it's only really a half a cup in a loaf. And then next comes the sugar. It does have quite a bit of sugar in it, so if you're diabetic or anybody, you can't really feed this to anybody that's a diabetic unless you try substituting something else for it. But this does use 2 cups of sugar, and that's what makes it a sweetbread. And then there's a little bit of vanilla in it, a couple teaspoons full. So she's just going to put that in there next. And we were buying the vanilla in these little tiny bottles that kind of cost a fortune. And we found like a pint size at Costco the other day that was really reasonable, the real vanilla extract. So that's a good way to save money on it. We didn't really realize that they had it in bulk quantities. And then you just mix that up and start mixing in a little bit of the dry batch at a time. So let's speed this up here a little bit so we don't have to spend an hour watching video mixing. And you can see as this mixes up, it does get quite thick. It's getting to be a little bit of a handful to mix up, but it's basically a bread dough. So, and then a cup and a half of that shredded zucchini. Just mix that in, and every once in a while a chunk does pass through the food processor. Make sure you pick it out now. You don't have any big pieces to scare the kids or grandkids off if they try it. And then a half cup of flaked coconut. And this really does give it nice texture too. And at this point, it's a little bit tough to mix up there, but make sure that you try to get everything really mixed well into the dough there. Or batter, I don't know what you'd call it. And that's what it looks like when it's done. Then you take those 2 greased and floured pans there and try to divide this as close as you can between the 2 of them. That way you get two pans that are cooked at the same time and about the same size. So divide it up and get it in the pans. And another thing about this bread is it freezes wonderfully. You can defrost it in the middle of winter and it tastes just like fresh made. So that's pretty much the the tough part of making it. And once you get them divided up, and you can see they're pretty close here, you just have to put them in that preheated oven that you started before you started mixing things up, and they bake for 45 to 60 minutes.
Echo. Set timer for 45 minutes.
Now she's gonna just start for 45.
Starting now.
And we use that echo thing for timing. I just wanted to show you we're getting tomatoes now, but we're having a problem with all this rain that they're basically exploding on the plants before we pick them. It's pretty sad, but if you pick them a little bit early and you don't leave them too long, because the bugs will get in there once they pop open. But we've really been enjoying them. Now, at this point, most people will use a toothpick to test it to see if it comes out dry, but she's got that magic finger that can just touch it and tell whether or not it's done.
Set timer for 5 minutes.
And nope, it needed another 5 minutes, so start the timer again. And
Echo. Stop.
let's take it and check it again. And I want to warn you, these things are hot, so you shouldn't really be doing what she's doing, touching them. But they're done. Look good too. Smell really good too. So just put them on a rack now and let them cool for a little bit, and make up some fresh iced tea to go with it. And a couple of minutes later, time to get them out of the pans. And you like to run a knife around before trying. And this is the point in time where you figure out, whether you have to eat one of them or both of them, or they both go in the freezer. Well, there's one perfect one. Came out perfect, didn't stick, and that's where that flour and oil makes up. And another perfect one. Boy, we got lucky this time. No problem at all. So there they are. That's a recipe that I told people I'd make do a video about, and it's a really good recipe. It's a great way to hide a zucchini inside a couple pieces of bread. Hopefully you all like it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.